We're going to move on now to Chuanying Lu. Chuanying is with the Shanghai Institute for International Studies, where he's a senior research fellow. Chuanying?
Yeah, thank you, moderator, and thank you, the organizer, for inviting me here. So it's my great pleasure to discuss with you some of my thinkings on the issues of the digital job games. So before started the presentation, I want to raise some questions. So because I studied the international relations, so my observations maybe more broader than those who have the background of the law and media. So it's more start from the state perspectives. So my first question is why platforms are important in digital age? Because the state, if you look at the job politics, digital job politics all over the world, you'll find that the China, United States are the major players, and the European Union maybe and other countries maybe not that important because lack of the platforms. So that is first question. And the second one may be from the state perspectives, the broader view of the platform governance means what? It may not just the antitrust, anti-monopolies, maybe or including the sovereignty, including the national security, and also including some of the ideologies. So the third question is why states are engaged in geopolitical games in digital space. So it's because the platforms are so important. It gathered huge amount of the data all over the world. It can be, so how should state balance the platform governance and the geo games? So because at one hand, the platform is so important for the geopolitical games. On the other hand, you want to regulate it in order to reduce the impact disruptive to the economic order or social stabilities. So that's some questions I want to raise before before I start the presentation. So at the beginning, I want to do some study from the internet governance, from the internet governance to the digital governance, because now we are facing the new fact that the rise of the platform accelerate the formulation of the global digital space. So we need to take this consideration that the internet governance today are not the internet governance 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So at the very beginning, we all know that the internet governance are referred to the critical infrastructure or critical resources of the internet, like the IP, like DNS, like what ICANN has been done. And then we're facing the new challenge of the cybersecurity. So in the past 10 years, the internet governance, or I like to use cyberspace governance, or more refer to the cybersecurity issues. But right now, we're facing new challenge of the digital governance. And the third part is the multi-dimensional platform governance. So as I said previously, the platform governance is a broader issue from the state perspective, so which may refer to the ideology, data sovereignty. So that means we are including more stakeholders, not just state, but maybe the private sectors who, we directly refer to the platforms are played very important roles in this area, especially in China, where lack of the tradition of the multi-stakeholder practice. In past, states are very powerful, strong, but in a digital space or in digital era, the platforms, the power is very important. The state have to, in some sense, transfer some of the power to the platform, but also the tech communities are important. So this is a new model, maybe we call it a multi-stakeholder, but in China, it has slightly different understanding. And second part is the platform becomes the decisive force of the digital geopolitics game between China and the U.S. If you look at the digital geopolitical maps, you will find that China and the United States are most important players over there. And it may be divided by the platform, right? So in China, you were not, the user cannot use the Facebook, Twitter, Google, those US platforms. But on the other hand, the US users may not use the Chinese platform, not because of the U.S. have some regulation, but it's just the user's choices. But the fact is the geopolitical maps are divided by the platform. So the second thing is the platform's importance is control the data and the emerging tech. So that's the reasons why the platforms are so important now and in the future, because the government lack of the capabilities to collect, to store, to use all this data, and is far away from the emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, and quantum. So, but which the platform are very close to them. And the third thing I want to discuss is the different governance models. Of course, in China, the U.S. have our multi-stakeholder or market-driven governance models, but in China it's different, right? We have the previous speaker already discussed these issues, but what I want to say is in Chinese platform governance, there's no such a model so far. As Yanqing just mentioned, that in the data and privacy area, China learned a lot from the GDPR, from the European Union's practice. And in other areas, China may try to learn some experience from the United States. But so far, there's no such a Chinese model. But in the future, I don't know. And third part is I want to say the digital geopolitics games from the Chinese perspective, because since the internet has been created, that it has strong connections to the state power. And from Chinese perspective, we are very concerned of the ideology dispute with the United States. It's more, as I said, it's like the peaceful evolution from the traditional area to the digital area. This is Chinese government very concerned. Is so the reflections from the Chinese government is to block the platform of the United States, like the Google, like Facebook, Twitter. When Chinese government negotiate with this platform, ask them to follow the Chinese law. They have some specific requirements on the content management, on the local national security. But the U.S. company said, no, we are U.S. companies. We are only regulated. We're based on the United States, so we are only follow the U.S. law. So that's the huge conflict that made the Chinese government to block this U.S. platform. And second thing is the cybersecurity risk. So when you all know the Snowden case, then Chinese government realized that the U.S. is so powerful in terms of cybersecurity, and there's it's too high, so highly relied on the U.S. products. So it makes Chinese government to replace the U.S. products. And the last is the decoupling. When the U.S. wants to decouple with China, so China has to establish its own digital system, including all the critical infrastructure. So the last, maybe not last, the next one is from the U.S. perspective. The U.S. perspective, first, of course, digital supremacy. U.S. Because the internet was born in the United States, and the U.S. Companies are so powerful in this area. So in the national security document of the United States, it said quite clear that the U.S. hegemony in the world is incorporated with the digital supremacy. And the second is China become the challenger. So it's something not happened in the traditional area, but in the platform area or emerging tech, China become the challenger. So the response from the U.S. government is to just kick China out of the digital system, like decoupling, right? It forced the global companies or foreign government to do not purchase Huawei's product, and also use a lot of the diplomatic and foreign interest to persuade other countries to do the same thing. So I think the last slide is I want to discuss the impact of the platform governance on the digital geopolitical game between China and the U.S. So the first question is whether platform governance will create two different models of governance. As I said, the U.S. has its own governance model, but China do not. So whether engage in when the interaction between China and the United States in digital areas will help China or force China to create new governance models. That's the first question. And second is whether the geopolitical games will create obstacles for the enterprise or the platform governance internally, because you want to balance the you don't want to kill your platform because you want it to replace you in geopolitical games competing, right? So that's something I emphasized a couple of times. And the third one, the impact of the platform governance practice to the future of the global digital space, whether it will be split as a Chinese system or a US digital system, or we still have one digital space, but China or US, one of them are lose the game, right? Or we create our new rules, norms, international law to help China and the United States to still live together in these areas, in this digital space. So I think I will stop here and leave some time for Roger to comment on this. So the moderator, I'm going to stop here.
Great. Thank you so much, Chuanying. Really enjoyed your presentation.